Hey students, well done for your progress so far with the Hindi alphabet. Now we've reached a stage in our lessons where we need to address something that's very important. The letters in English of T and D. See, English has two sounds, one sound for each letter. There's T as in top and there's D as in dog. However, in Hindi, each letter, T and D, have four separate sounds to them. And to someone learning Hindi, they sound all the same. And it will take some time to be able to really differentiate the sounds. But here are the sounds for T in Hindi. We have ta, we have ta, we have ta, and we have ta. You notice the last one is like, there's more air. Ta, 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 ta. Okay? And then there's D. Here's the D sounds. Da, 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 da. Now, we may not be able to right away notice the difference in the sound. That takes time. But at least with these lessons, we'll show you what's happening inside your mouth when you pronounce each of these sounds. And whether it is a dental sound or a retroflex sound. So before we get into that, let's take a little page out of our TESOL course instruction where we teach an entire module just on pronunciation. And we're going to hear Mr. Abe Underhill as he explains how best to teach pronunciation, but it also applies in principle as to how to learn the pronunciation of any language. Of course, we're focusing on Hindi.
Last video, I introduced the idea of the physicality of pronunciation, teaching and learning. And this is something I introduce with my own learners right from the very beginning. And the way that I do that is to divide the muscles that are going to be needed into what I call muscle buttons. And I help the students to discover these muscle buttons. Button number 1 is the lips. Button number 2 is the movement of the tongue, backwards and forwards. Button number 3 is the movement of the jaw, up and down. Button number 4 is the voice, introducing the voice or taking it out so that you have voiced and unvoiced sounds. And I find that even with those 4 buttons, as the students rediscover what it is to move those 4 at will, not by habit, they're already doing that, but moving them at will, they are then able to let go and move outside of the grip of their mother tongue. Then they're in the zone of discovering new sounds. And it's very exciting, but it's also very simple. And in order to keep it simple, I use this term of muscle buttons. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So in this video, he talked about the 4 muscle buttons. The muscle button number 1, the lips, position of the lips, are they pulled back, are they forward? Muscle button number 2 is the tongue, is it pulled back, is it up on the roof of the mouth, or is it against the teeth? Number 3 was the jaw, is the jaw wide open or closed? And number 4 was if it was voiced or unvoiced. Now, for our lessons regarding T and D, these sounds, we are mostly focused on the position of the tongue. Is it dental? In other words, is the tongue pushed up close to the teeth, where you can actually see the tongue coming between the teeth? Or is it retroflex, where the tongue is pulled back against the roof of the mouth? Ta, 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 and ta, right? So those are the 2 differences, dental or retroflex. Okay, let's have some practice with the T sound in Hindi. Okay, with the 4 T sounds. So we have the first one, the dental T, ta, 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 followed by the dental aspirated T, which is ta, ta, ta. Now we have the retroflex T, which sounds like ta, T. And then we have the aspirated retroflex T, which sounds like T, 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 T. Pretty similar, isn't it? But that's how it goes. Now let's start with the D's. Here's the dental D, dental D, which is D, D, D. Okay? Then we have the aspirated dental D, 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 D. Okay? So let's compare them. D, 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 D. Now we have the retroflex D, 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 D. The aspirated retroflex D, 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 D. So the big differences are in the dental or retroflex center around the use of the tongue, right? The dental, the tongue, the muscle button number 2, is close to the teeth. Ka, da, okay? But in the retroflex sound, the tongue is bent upwards, touching the roof of the mouth. Da, ka. So that use of the tongue is critical in how we pronounce these 2 letters. Actually 4. Okay, now that we are understanding that it is the tongue that needs to be manipulated to make the difference in these sounds, it's important now to start really getting the brain to center on the nuances and the very slight differences between these sounds. So we're going to show you a video with 4 ways that you can do this to really try to get your mind centered on, and from a 360-degree angle, on the differences of these sounds.
So the question I'd like to look at in this short video is, how can I, the teacher, demonstrate and say sounds for the students? And how can the students, in this case you at the moment, say and practice them? Now, I, the teacher, can give a sound without saying it. For example, I can mime it. I can mime it like this. But I can also gesture to make that mime a little clearer. So I go like, or I could mime a sound like this. Or I could gesture as well to make it perhaps a little clearer. So mime and gesture are 2 approaches. They usually go together. The second thing, of course, I can do is to say it, E and oo. And later I'll show some other ways in which the teacher can put new sounds into circulation. Now, how can the student receive that and what can they do about it? Well, one thing, of course, is that they can say the sound aloud as best they can, listening to themselves and then adjusting it if they have found the muscle buttons to adjust it with. The second thing they can do is to whisper it. That gives a different sensation and puts attention in a different part of the musculature. And the third thing they can do is not even to whisper it, but just to find the position like this. And when you find the position of a sound, it's kind of strange because you're used to making a sound. But if you find a position on its own, it tells you something else about what you're doing. It makes you look inside. And the fourth thing that the student can do, which is very powerful, and I'm going to invite you to do this quite often, is not to move any muscles at all, but to hear the sound in the inner ear. So if I say the sound E, I then invite the student to carry on hearing that in my voice in the inner ear. This works for sounds and words and short bits of connected speech. The student holds, suspends, and listens several times in the inner ear without the distortion of the musculature just the inner ear holding it. It's a very good way of practicing, and we'll talk more about that.
Okay, let's practice using Mr. Underhill's techniques. Okay, so let's practice with the letter D, or D, D. This is a dental D, D, D. So I'm going to say it, and then I want you to just whisper it. Just whisper it. Da, da, da. Don't aspirate too much, just da, da. Now, just get the position. Don't make any sounds, just the position. Okay? Now I'm going to say it several times and then try to hear it in your inner ear. When I stop vocalizing this sound, you just continue hearing it in your inner ear. Da, 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 danyavat, danyavat, da, da. Okay, let's try the retroflex D. Okay. First of all, let's whisper it. First of all, say it first. Da, 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 da. Now just the position. And now I'll say it, and then you keep hearing the sound of my voice in your inner ear. Now, it would be better to have a local doing it, but we'll have to just make do. Here we go. Da, 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 da. Well done. So use these techniques, these 4 steps, for practicing the pronunciation of all the letters, especially ones that are difficult to duplicate from English to Hindi. Okay, so you have the first step is just to say it, finding the right position of the tongue. Is it dental or is it retroflex? The second one is to whisper it. Look at this, just listen to the nuances. What's happening in your mouth when you're whispering it? The third one is to just hold the position. Or if it's aspirated, right? And the fourth one is to have someone repeat it, or even yourself, or better, a native speaker is even better. And then just keep hearing it in your inner ear when they stop speaking. And just keep hearing it and repeating it. And in these ways, the brain is getting a full 360-degree approach to the sound that is quite foreign initially to the learner. Okay, I hope this little guide on the pronunciation of the T's and the D's in Hindi has been helpful. Again, initially, your first priority is just to learn the letters, what they say, and then to start speaking. You want lots of vocabulary. Now, initially, not saying t instead of t is not going to make a big difference, because the context will tell people what you want to say. And there's just a few words that mean completely different things when you use different letters. But initially, it won't matter so much. Just learn the vocabulary. But as time goes on, you're going to want to be able to pronounce these different sounds correctly. But you also need time for your own ear to start to see the difference, because initially you won't recognize the difference much. Now, let's look at a native speaker going through these letters, and you can see how they sound when a native speaker pronounces the T's and the D's.
Alveolar sounds are produced with the tongue at or near the ridge right behind the upper front teeth, such as t, d, s.
If we have a look at the inside of our mouth, we can see, starting from front to behind, these are the lips, these blue ones are the teeth. Then here is something called alveolar ridge. Put your tongue here and you can feel the alveolar ridge, right? Now, to pronounce the English T, we touch the tip of our tongue on this alveolar ridge.
D, D, T.
So you can verify it right now by pronouncing the words tip or tongue. Now from here I will direct you to how to pronounce the retroflex and the dental T. Easier of them is the dental T. So first we will go with the dental T. Pronouncing the dental T is so easy that you just have to place the tip of your tongue between your teeth in such a way that it is visible from outside, just like this. The. When I'm pronouncing the, a part of my tongue is visible from outside. Repeat after me. The. The. Tala. Tala. तरबूज किताब किताब गलत गलत Now if you add some aspiration to it, that is, while pronouncing the, you also breathe out some air with it, it becomes the next consonant. Th. Th. The, th, the, th. And if we increase the vibrations in the pronunciation, it becomes
The.
the, th, the, न. ठीक है?
Ta. Ta. Atta. At. Tha. Tha. Atha. At. The. The. Adda. Ad. The. The. Adha. Ad.